figures that these people get, talking about not just 2 million, talking about diamonds, something like 32 million. I remember I wrote a column several months ago, in the Sun, by the way, on a Sunday, and on the Monday morning after writing the column in the Sun, I got a phone call at the office, and the secretary put the phone call through. Before she put it through, so there's a phone call, and it sounds like a lawyer, but a very posh lawyer from London, acting on behalf of Barclays and Bob Diamond, and he wants to speak to him. At one point, I was sort of driven because I thought, oh no, it's that article, I'm going to get sued, that's the end. And the guy came on and he wanted to discuss the bonuses and saying it wasn't accurate. So at first I was a bit flustered, thinking, be a high-flying power lawyer working for Barclays, and he's demanding a retract and demanding that I print correctly what Bob Diamond. And I eventually sort of stopped for a minute and said, well, can you first of all tell me, if you're saying those figures are wrong and it wasn't 16 million and he actually took a cut, can you tell me what he did earn over those few years? And then the guy stopped and said, well, you can go onto Barclays. So I did. I said, I'll tell you what, I will go onto the Barclays website and find out exactly what he did, but could you send me the figures as well? I never heard from him again. What I did do was the following Sunday, I printed a form of a retract saying, I got it absolutely wrong, he actually earned a hell of a lot more, because he had, you know, a $32 million apartment that was bought. He actually, I think it was $1.5 to $2 million pounds that he got, reduced from the 16 million, but there was all the pension payoffs, all the rest of this. And the point is this, whether it was 2 million, whether it was 16 million, whether it was 32 million, the figures are absolutely obscene. These bankers tore the heart out of this country. They got 1.4 trillion pounds, and now they're at it again. They have their noses in the trough, and they're at it again, wanting to award themselves bonuses. And what is our Chancellor of the Exchequer doing, George Osborne? What is he actually doing at this point in time? He's about ready to go and spend millions on a court battle within the European courts, because Europe has actually turned around and said, we should cap the bankers' bonuses. We should cap the bonuses. They haven't turned around and said you won't get 2 million, but what they're saying is if you get 2 million, you shouldn't be able to double that up to 4 million. But George Osborne, he wants to go to court to be able to stop that happening. And when you talk about, this was what sickens me when people talk about bankers and say, oh well, you know, what would we do? I mean, how we have to prop them up, and you know, what would Scotland do? And I had a taxi journey, and it always comes back to the journeys with taxi drivers. I had a taxi journey with a guy who picked me up from the station, and he was in the no camp. He says, well, you know, I deal with bankers all the time, and they're coming in and saying the RBS will pull out, and you know, and the banks will pull out of Scotland and all this. This is what gets me, is this. It's our money that goes in those banks. What exactly do these bankers create? It's our money, millions earned by ordinary people who put their savings into there, who had savings and life plans and pensions, etc., wiped out. But it's our money that goes in there. It's our money that creates their bonuses as they sit on the top, whining around the world in their yachts and their home in New York, home in London, home in Paris, home there, while people are grovelling about, people are fighting for the small pieces off the table. That's why I hope that we do get an independent Scotland, that we do fight for the fact that no, bonus doesn't happen, and this idea that they'll pull out. No, they won't pull out. It's the same as these energy companies. They make their money off us. We pay them the money for our energy bills. We pay them the money to put into the deposit bank, so there's no chance of them pulling out. That's just scare tactics that they use everywhere else around the world. Which countries have they pulled out that have demanded the right to self-determination? Now, in terms of the question of voting for the SNP, not voting, and Nicola was right, and I said it as well. This is not about a vote for the SNP. Maybe the majority of people here support the SNP, maybe the majority of people here support Labour, I don't know. This is about voting for our destiny and making changes. When it comes down to the question of the press, I agree with you, the majority of the press and the media in this country is against us. So what? What about, if you could just imagine Eastern Europe, what happened in Eastern Europe? You had decades of Stalinism, you had a dictatorship, you had the KGB, you had the Secret Service, but eventually when people came together and said enough is enough, and they wanted to control their own destiny, and they wanted democracy, they took the decision, and nothing could stop them. And in the Middle East, that process has started again. And fair enough, there is struggle, and people are being cynical about it, but the way I see it is that in the Middle East, that struggle started within Egypt and other countries. There was a spark, and the fact is that those dictators and all the rest of it couldn't stop it. They control the press, they control the media, much more than they do in this country. But I'll tell you what, You can have all the media control and blackouts and all the rest of it you want, and they can turn around and say that that march that we know was 20 to 30,000 that marched on the 21st of September, and the media portray it as 8,000. And I have an email from the police that's saying it was anywhere between 20 to 30,000, but the press still persists in saying it's 8,000 to try and rubbish the fact that ordinary people out there. The fact is that we actually have new forms of media in our control. We have Twitter. We have this meeting organised primarily on social media and leaflets going out. We can actually, if every person in this room, 200 or more, went out and spoke to 10 people, do the maths, and those 10 people were convinced, and when I spoke to more, they would be convinced. That is how it happens. That is how we can actually win independence, and that's the important part here. And I agree in terms of the case of the radical agenda. I agree with you, and I also agree with Nicola. But taking a vote for independence is the most radical step that this country will have taken in generations. The most radical step, and it's a stepping stone. And we are already united. I have to say, I have genuine admiration for the SNP for having done this, because they may well be sealing their own death warrants, because people might turn around and say that for once Labour is actually able to go back to its roots, and I genuinely believe that the vast majority of people in the Labour Party, hardcore activists and trade unions, actually believe and want a different type of Scotland. But they may well go back to their roots, and may well come the next election after independence, they might win. They might win it all. People say, well, there's no need for an SNP. That may well happen. But I'll tell you this, what I wonder about is those MPs who are sitting in Westminster that's so against independence. Why are they about it? Is it genuine? Or is it more about the fact that they're scared of losing their seats in Westminster, that place that has led to the expensive scandal, the illegal wars, their duck ponds, their expenses, whatever it be? That's what they're more worried about losing. So I'll close in saying this, is that the white paper, etc., it's up to us. Governments continually produce white papers, and they ask for communities to actually get involved. There's a stall over there. Nobody's actually spoken about it tonight. The Yes campaign have done a tremendous job over the last year of fighting against the media, of fighting against the lies and all that. Every single person in that room should sign up tonight, should join the Yes campaign, should talk to their friends, should email, should take the stickers, the badges, etc., and get involved in every single meeting that happens, not just in Leith, but in Edinburgh, in Scotland, and every demonstration. Because I'll tell you what, if we leave this room tonight and everybody goes home and say, that was a great meeting, I agree with what they say, then the job's not done. There's a job we've got 11 months to build for a referendum, for independence, but what it's going to take is a vast majority, because it shouldn't be 51%. We should see overwhelming support from the people of Scotland for independence, because that is what will deliver a radical agenda. That is what will change and give us a vision of what we want.
We do need to draw things to a close of this section of the evening anyway at 9:30, so I can perhaps get one more question in with quick answers from speakers, please. I know that the woman at the back there had her hand up before, so...
I'm relieved to hear that we no duck points.
Hello, my name is Laura. I'm involved in fundraising for the Edinburgh Crisis Centre, and they have a massive funding cut and 9-month waiting list. And I'm wondering, under independent Scotland, what sort of improvements would they have if vulnerable people don't have to wait 9 months for support they need?
Okay, so, sorry, I think that get the beginning, the very start of what you were saying, were you?
I'm involved in fundraising for the Edinburgh Crisis Centre, which is massive funding cuts and a 9-month waiting list.
9 months waiting list, and what sort of funding potentially will be available. So it's
I don't know what funding would be available. I have the feeling that there has been such an intensity of thought that's gone into the whole business of rape and sexual assault that we might start up pretty high up the scale in Scotland. Now, I don't know, that's all my instinct is just now. There's been a great movement forward of understanding and across a much wider part of the population, I think, than even 5 years ago. But I don't know where it will end. That's up to the people who are going to be in the Parliament. We're not all going to be SNP or Labour. There's going to be all sorts of different parties, I hope, and lots of independents, remember. But all these folk are bringing something from the last 10 years' knowledge that's been building up on how you cope with it. And so therefore I would have thought that you would do a bit better because there will be a bit more money going round. And I think you're likely to do a wee bit better. I don't know, that's not a satisfactory answer, I know, but there isn't a cut and dried answer like so many of the policy items that would people automatically think of. How's it going to affect my pension? Your pensions will be paid. How's it going to be affecting my child benefit? Your child benefit will be paid. And it's that's the only way you can only say it will happen because we will make it happen. You can't say down to the last pence right now and to what extent it will happen.
Nicola?
I'm not going to sit here and pretend I can tell you what your budget will be in 2016 when Scotland becomes independent. That's for the government of the day and you have a Chancellor of the Exchequer is that sets their budget. But what I can tell you is that if we're independent, we get access to all of our own resources and we've got the freedom and the flexibility to decide our own priorities. And I hope that an independent Scotland would prioritise services like the vital one you're working in. That ability to decide what our priorities are is infinitely better to the situation we've got just now, where we all pay our taxes, we send that money to London, London sends us some back and creams some off to invest in things like nuclear weapons on the River Clyde. Let's get control of our own resources so that we're responsible for the decisions that we take. You're never going to have a situation where some people don't disagree with government decisions on this or that, or voluntary organisations are still not disappointed that they're not getting higher budgets, but we will have the ability to decide for ourselves how we spend our own money.
Thanks. On the specific issue that you raised about the Rape Crisis Centre funding, I mean, if that funding comes through the Edinburgh Council, come and see me afterwards. I'm happy to take the details and take the issue up on your behalf. But on the general issue, as somebody who, before I was elected, worked in the voluntary sector for nearly a decade, I know the importance of funding, and crucially I know the importance of predictable funding. The funding situation for the voluntary sector at the moment is stop-go, and quite often voluntary organisations that are providing absolutely vital services will be going and talking to their funders about funding for the next financial year in February or March, or quite often when the financial year has already started. That is unacceptable, and I think we want to move to a situation where voluntary organisations that are providing vital services have much more predictability in the funding that they receive, and I think there's an opportunity to do that if we vote next year. Yes, next year.
Thank you. And Lesbian.
In terms of the funding, what I'd say is that I know there's a statistic, 85,000 women a year in the United Kingdom are subjected to sexual assault, to rape, and what is horrific about that statistic is that 85% of them don't actually report the assaults and rapes to the authorities, and actually don't feel the confidence to go forward. And yet, nobody knows why, and nobody has done any research, and nobody has poured in the funding in order to alter that. What I do know is this, that I work as a criminal lawyer, and I have seen the worst cases of child abuse, the worst cases of rape, and the worst cases of domestic violence that happens. And as over the last few years, I've seen it increase as society degenerates, as we're told to turn on each other, as poverty increases. What I'm hoping is that it's not just simply a case of that statistic remains a statistic and doesn't go down. Now we're talking about a new vision, a radical vision for a society, that actually a vision of a society where men and women are valued, where our children are valued, where actually these things actually become not the norm, but actually become the abnormal, and where we can actually change society once and for all. I do not think we should stop dreaming about those things. It really gets to me sometimes that people think, oh, this has always happened. It hasn't always happened, and it is something that can be stopped. And I would hope that in an independent Scotland, like the speakers have said, that we would get the funding for centres like the Rape Crisis Centre, who are often battling against the odds to make their voices heard and fighting for women. The vast majority of cases will not reach the front pages of the tabloids because of the nature of the attack, because of what happens to them. So I hope with an independent Scotland that we can actually turn those figures and those horrific statistics around.
Left on ask each of our members of the panel just to say a very quick word, a few quick words about the independence debate and thoughts they might like to leave you with before you leave.
Firstly, I'd like to thank the audience tonight because these cheers aren't all that cool. But you've been a fantastic audience, and that's really true. The questions that have come up have been different questions to what you might normally expect on occasions like this. And for that, I thank you. Now, you'll thank me if I shut up very quickly and just say that. Are you sure you're still undecided? There are two messages that really count tonight. If you want to do it, nobody else is going to do it for you. You're going to be given the opportunity to do it, so take it. And the other message is, this is a great meeting, but there's folk outside the walls. So make sure you talk to at least one other person tomorrow and tell them about it. Because there has been a good feeling in here tonight. It's a wee bit of the dynamic that's just waiting to burst through. I'm happy to see. Thank you.
Again, I think I've spoken too much, so I'm going to try and keep it brief if that's possible. I want to again thank the audience, because the main part of this meeting tonight, I think, is the audience and the questions that you asked and the tremendous turnout, and thank you to the organisers who have organised such a great meeting. But I will re-emphasise again, you have the Yes campaign stall over there, you have people from organisations. Join up, give your names, you want to get involved, you want a radical Scotland, you want something radical in the manifesto, you want to be involved in the white paper, you want to know what's going to happen over the next 11 months. Every single time you speak to a person, you could make that difference. That taxi journey, talking to your nurse, talking to your doctor, talking to your friends, your family, whatever it is, you could actually change their point of view. And I'll say this, and I remember saying it year in, year out at every single anti-war demonstration that I've been on over the last 20 odd years or so. And it's been nice that people always used to say to me when I go to meetings, and I remember meetings where there would be meetings where there would be 5 people, and you sometimes would go in depressed, and then somebody older and wiser than me at the time said to me, says, you know what, it's meetings of 5 people, meetings of 10 people, 15 and 20, that actually can bring, you know, big, huge giants to their knees. And I thought he was just an idiot, to be honest. But he said to me the principle of Vietnam, and he says those meetings over Vietnam started in small colleges, in small rooms of 5 and 10 and 15. People used to think they were just idiots. People used to think they were hippies and all that. Nobody in America will join up. And eventually what happened was those meetings became 5, 10, 100, 1,000, and 100,000, and hundreds of thousands marched. And then even that movement decided that, you know what, we're not enough. And they joined up with the civil liberties movement. They joined up with the movement for women's rights. They joined up with the movement for gay rights. And eventually that movement became a worldwide movement which brought a superpower to its knees. Now, we're not being asked to do very much. We're not being asked to bring a superpower to its knees. But all we're being asked to do is to decide our own destiny. We have 11 months to make a decision. There's no point in just treating this like we do the general election. Every 5 years, we put an X in the box, and with the greatest respect to the politicians that are here, they'll come along, they'll kiss your babies, and they'll go off, right? But fair enough, maybe not politicians up here. But this is not a general election. This is not about voting for Alex Salmon. This is not about voting for Joanne Lamont. It's about changing things forever. And you have an opportunity to do that, not just on September the 18th, but actually every single day. We need to be out there arguing, armed with the arguments, and saying to them, fair enough, I can see that I've gone on too long. Thank you.
To finish up, please.
Thank you. Yes, I'd also like to thank all of you for coming along. Lots of familiar faces in the audience. It's good to see so many of you. Big thanks to the organisers. Thank you very much indeed for the invitation. I'm going to return to my constituent, who I called Mary, in my speech, and the hundreds of thousands of people like her across Leith and across the city, and how much of an opportunity we've got in the vote next year to improve her lives and to improve the lives of so many hundreds and thousands of other people. If we've convinced you to vote yes, then please go out and talk to somebody else. If we haven't convinced you, we'll still be here after the meeting. Come and talk to us, or come and talk to us in the pub, and you never know, perhaps over a pint we might convince you. So thank you very much.
When Amber was speaking there, I was just thinking, forget your babies, I'll kiss you if you forget. Don't do that. Again, like the other speakers, can I just say thank you to all of you for coming. I think yes, no, undecided. The fact that we can bring 200 people into a hall on a wet Thursday night is fantastic for this country, because it shows we all care passionately about the future of Scotland, and we want to talk about it and be part of it, and that is wonderful. I suppose I've just got two final things to say to you as you make up your minds, if you haven't already done so. Firstly, if you think Scotland is as good as Scotland can be, if you think this is as good as it gets, then by all means vote no. Vote for the status quo, vote for no change, vote for business as usual. But if you think like me, like those of us here tonight, that Scotland is great but can be better, that we don't have to have the levels of child poverty that we've got, that we don't have to have people dying younger, that we can be a better, fairer, more prosperous country than we are today, then please vote for that change. Please vote yes to bring the powers to make that change into our own hands. We might not get this opportunity again. We're the lucky ones. We're the generation that is getting the chance to choose the future for ourselves, for our kids, for our grandkids. We can't guarantee it'll ever come along again. It is once in a lifetime, it is once in a generation. So I'll end where I began earlier on. Ask yourself, what will make you feel better on the morning of the 19th of September? Will you feel better knowing that there's no change, or will you feel better knowing that we have taken that chance to make what we want to make of our country into our own hands? Let's do this. I don't want to be sitting here 20, 30 years from now explaining to a future generation how we had the chance, it was within touch and distance, and we blew it, we didn't take it. Because you know that if we do that, I think we'll all regret it the day after. Even those who vote no will wake up the morning and think, God, we should have done that, we should have done it. So let's take this opportunity, let's grab it with both hands and be proud to tell our grandkids way down the line that we were there when Scotland voted yes to become independent.